right, welcome back to the Dirt Beers podcast. This is episode 20. Jonathan, you want to get her started here, buddy?
We got to start it right because this is a big one. This is, we've had some amazing guests on the show, but to me, anyways, this is like by far the biggest guest I think we've had. So
I would say so. Later in the episode, we got our guest segment coming up with the one and only Kasey Kahne. Going to be a good interview. We're going to talk to everything about racing and KKR and just everything that Kasey's gone through in his racing career. But before that, we got to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, let's start off with our pals over at Dig Race Products. Now, since 2016, Dig Race Products has had a sole focus on the Northeast dirt modified shocks and suspension tuning scene. Located centrally in New York, Dig is the industry leader in at-track shock and setup support. This hands-on, at-the-track approach is what leads the design and development in delivering the highest quality shock absorbers to the dirt oval track market. Take your program to the next level and feel the difference on Dig. Visit digraceproducts.com for more information. And who else are we brought to you by, Beef?
We're also brought to you by Inland Rigging. Inland Rigging is a machinery, moving, and warehousing company based out of Southern California, offering local, domestic, and international moving services. Whether you have one piece or a complete factory to move or a warehouse, Inland Rigging has you covered. With deep family history in the business, dating back to 1904, Inland Rigging continues the same family values that has made Inland Rigging the right choice for so many years. Thanks to Tom and everybody at Inland. And Jonathan, we got some other exciting news. Also, next week, World Outlaws are coming to our neck of the woods. So we are going to be at Oswego Speedway on the 13th and 14th, covering the World Outlaw races and doing some after-race thought type podcast, so look out for that next week. That'll be next week's episode, giving our thoughts on each night.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting. I mean, obviously a huge night for us Canadian sprint car fans. It's going to be huge in general to go in and talk to some folks that we've already had on the show in some instances, catch up with some old friends. Like, of course, I'm excited to see Doug Leonard. That'll be great. It's just going to be a really, really special night. And as two guys who love dirt racing, this is one we can't miss this one. So I'm looking forward to being at the track, getting the sights and sounds. If any drivers want to come and say hi, we can absolutely connect while you're there. Race fans, anybody listening, if you want to connect with us, we will be at Oswego and we'd love to meet you, say hi, and just talk a little dirt about our crown jewel venue in north of the border, really.
Yeah. So without further ado, we're going to get into the guest segment this week, and it's none other than Kasey Kahne. Excited to get to talk to him and learn a little bit more about him. All right, welcome back to the Dirt Beers podcast. This is episode 20, and our guest this week is none other than Kasey Kahne. Kasey, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to it.
Awesome. So we always like to start the episode by getting to know the background on our guests. So take us back to when you started in racing and where you got your start and maybe what you started in. Was it a karts thing for you or was it a different form of racing?
Yeah, so I started in 1994 was when I first got my first race car, and that was a mini sprint, a micro mini sprint, and we raced at Deming Speedway in Washington. Before that, my cousins and myself, my cousin Willie, he runs Factory Kane Shocks, him and his brother, they started Factory Kane Shocks years ago, and that's their business. They've done a great job with it, but he raced three-wheelers, so he would race in the pro class and then basically like drive over to the hay bales. He'd jump off and I would jump on, and then I would go, to the start-finish line, and you start from a dead stop and go. So that was my first racing, was on a three-wheeler, but in a car. It was a micro at Deming Speedway, and we just kind of went from there. We did a year of that, and then 1100 mini sprint. I had 1000 cc Yamaha. Did that for a year, and then started 360s the following year. So it was I was 14, 15, 16, kind of during those years, and all my friends, like, because my dad had a sprint car team that it wasn't like a full-time team. It was a hobby, but they put a lot into it and would race 15 to 20 times a year at Skagit Speedway. So I grew up going to the track and watching the sprint cars, And then so you'd meet friends there and younger kids that were like my age, and they were all racing quarter midgets. So like I had those guys, I knew what they were doing. I was on my parents, like I want to race quarter midgets, all that. And they were on me to play sports. So I was playing baseball and basketball, and we did soccer one year. So it was like, I didn't start racing until I was 14, but I really wanted to. And other than the 3-wheeler, and then we had 4-wheelers, and we built our own racetrack at home. So like me and my cousins, my brother, a couple friends, like we were racing 4-wheelers nonstop long before I ever, sat in a race car.
And at that point, is it all strictly about chasing the dirt dream? Did you have any greater aspirations in terms of a racing career at 13, 14, or was it just the fact you got to go 360 racing was cool enough?
So my bedroom was, I'd cut out open wheel magazines. I'd cut pages out of magazines. I'd cut those big calendars. There was like calendar, and then the top above it was a full sprint car, a page of a full sprint car. So I had Pennsylvania Posse, I had World of Outlaws, I had, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and like USAC stuff. So during that time, when I'm anywhere from, 10 to 15 years old, my room is just covered in sprint cars. And the dream was to race, World of Outlaws sprint cars. That was the dream, before I started racing. Like I just wanted to be a sprint car driver. And, so that was the dream, and started in mini sprints and then kind of moved up from there.
Awesome. So growing up, being that kid that was cutting stuff out and putting it up on the wall, I know everybody did it. I did it myself. Who was that guy you looked up to at that time in racing?
So there was a lot. I mean, my room was covered, but I would say my favorite sprint car driver, and the guy who drove for my dad, his name was Billy Kennelly. He was like my top guy, because at home, and he drove for my dad. So that was super cool. But the guys on the road was Dave Blaney was my guy. He was in the 10 Vibram car, Ford. Like that was just, to me, was super cool at the time as a kid. But yeah, it was Dave Blaney. And then the other was, Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, because they would be racing Thursday Night Thunder. So I would, we're in Enumclaw, Washington, and there's not a ton of racing in that area, but I would, every Thursday Night Thunder, I was watching, nonstop. And that was when Jeff Gordon was really getting going on Thunder. And then Tony was right behind him. And so those guys were instantly some of my top guys, and I was like Rich Vogler, I was Robbie Stanley, just everybody Kenny Irwin, everybody who performed on Thursday Night Thunder at that point in time, I also was, a big fan of.
So talk a little bit about that journey. You mentioned not a lot of racing where you grew up, but you did have places like Skagit. I'm sure once you got traveling, there was other places on the West Coast maybe you traveled to. But what did it take for you to go more to the East Coast and chase some of that stuff in Middle America, go and hit a place like Eldora? What was that process like from taking your program regionally to being able to drive at a national level?
Yeah, so we started in Washington, and then they started a Northern Sprint Tour out there, and so we'd go to Oregon and Canada. It was all 360s, but I paid close attention to NARC, and that was California, and Brent Kading, Ronnie Day, Randy Tyner, Bud Kading, Tim Kading, like everybody, was. So I paid very close attention to the West Coast sprint car racing, and they would come up to Dirt Cup in June. And, usually win or be very close, like, the California guys who were doing it more and, and traveling a little bit more to more tracks. So that was who I paid close attention to. So we started doing that, and I was like, man, I need to get out of high school. Like I have to figure out how to get through high school. So I started in night classes and got out. I basically graduated a year early, not a full year, but I waited and then graduated with my class when I was supposed to, but I was on the road a year earlier because I did that. So when I did that, we just were able to put together, between my dad, my parents, Dave DeWitt, and some other, friends of my dad, like everybody just put in, the most money we could put in to go racing, and moved to Indianapolis and started racing in the Midwest. And we yeah, it was crazy. Like, we needed all those people to make it happen, and my parents and whatnot. But I made really good relationships when I was out there, and won some races, and then that was, just ran well in front of the right people, and that's how I got the opportunity with Steve Lewis, Gary Zeroni, in the following year in the midgets and Silver Crown cars. And so then at that point, I was more of part-time sprint cars, racing midgets, racing Silver Crown, and that was kind of where it went from there. And that's when my mind kind of opened up more about pavement racing and racing outside of dirt. But all the way up until then, I was just all about dirt.
Yeah. So once you get into that, you're moving up the ranks, you get into USAC, you're running the Silver Crown cars, you're running the midget stuff. What was it like when your phone rang and you got that call to come to NASCAR? And what was it like, having the comparison to a Jeff Gordon, a Tony Stewart that also came from USAC, and you're going down the similar path? What was your mind thinking at that point when that phone rang?
I was just super surprised, really excited. I was actually at my grandma and grandpa's house, and I was kind of walking beside her barn. She had horses, and I was walking beside her barn, and I got this number on my phone. Come to find out, it was Richard Childress. But at the time, I had, I'd never seen that number before in North Carolina, Welcome, North Carolina, or that area. So I was like, I wonder who this is, and answered, and he said it was Richard Childress, and I'm like, there's no way this is Richard Childress. But we started our conversation. It sounded like him, and we just went from there. And next thing you knew, I was down there. Me and my dad, he flew us down to RCR, and that was what kind of got everything rolling, was that first call with Richard Childress. And then Ford got involved, and Robert Yates, and it kind of all went from there.
And you go on to have this amazing career in Cup, where you're, considered one of the 75 greatest drivers of all time. But at the same time, your heart is still in the dirt, because you established Kasey Kahne Racing with Mike Curb. Talk to us about that program and setting that up kind of basically at the same time as your career in Cup racing taking off.
Yeah, so as soon as we got, to North Carolina, I'd been racing the sprint car stuff, and I moved from Indianapolis. I'd lived there in the summers for 3 summers with my cousins, and then so moved to North Carolina. We got a little shop. We rented the end of a building from Jerry Nadeau, who raced in NASCAR for years ago. So rented that from Jerry, and had some sprint cars, because I still had the Phil Durst and Gary Zeronian, where that's who kind of we were putting the teams together with at that point in time. So we were basically had a little bit of racing going there, and then, which was really good, and they were still racing and stuff. But once I got into Cup, which that call was from Ray Evernham and Bill Elliott, and which I still remember this stuff very, very clear, which was super cool. It was just neat moments, memories back then. But yeah, I was actually at that shop when Bill Elliott called me and told me I need to get in his car, because he's getting ready to move on and race at race a lot less. But so that was kind of where that all took place. But as soon as I had the opportunity to make that type of money, and we just started KKR, because I was like, man, this stuff's been good to me. I love this type of racing, and we started a team there and kind of just built KKR from that point on. It's ever since. We've either had 1, 2, or 3 teams, and it's been really good over the years, and it's felt good to have great drivers, great mechanics. We've had great partner sponsors over the years, and I think that the teams have always done a really nice job for that whole group. So I love what our drivers have done at KKR over the years. Every single one of them that we've had, and all of our crew, team members, crew members, everything.
Yeah. So was it when you did get into NASCAR, you were able to get that funding to be able to start your own national sprint car touring team? Was that always a dream of yours? Was that something you always wanted to accomplish?
Well, my dream was to race at that level, and it just never, I was kind of heading that direction, but then the pavement stuff came up and
Mm-hmm.
started doing the midgets and Silver Crown. So then my direction changed a little bit. And yeah, so as soon as I had the opportunity, it was like, that was to, still race at the national level, but I did it with the teams rather than myself. And Joey Salvano was our first full-time driver. We had a lot of drivers early on trying to get our feet wet and understand what the direction and what we needed, where we were headed. But
Yeah.
Joey was our first full-time, World of Outlaw driver. 2006 was our first full year with the Outlaws. And that was the start of it all right there.
What did you take from, obviously, like when you work in Cup, you got this opportunity to drive for Ray Evernham. You get this opportunity to drive for Rick Hendrick. What are you able to learn from how they organize their operations and bring that to KKR? Was there something that you picked up along the way that you wouldn't have thought of implementing in a race team that you learned from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the big things, all the owners were a little different over the years. They each, have other businesses, or they do or don't, and and they're involved in a lot of things. So from the start with Ray, it was all about the people and all about kind of the relationships, the people. He treated me great. He showed his interest to all of us and how much he wanted to perform and be at the top of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He was there, like when we were there Monday morning, you were not the first person there, but Ray was already there. And so I learned that from him straight away, like just how bad you have to want it and how much you have to put into it. And it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people and, and just being part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Hendrick was no different as far as the people side. He is as good to his employees and the people who make Hendrick Motorsports or, Hendrick Automotive Group, the things that he's associated with, make those things go. And he treats his people unbelievable and his people perform. And, so I think the biggest thing there was just all about the people and being able to work with people. And I really think, you have to, to me, you have to be able to handle when you make a mistake, whether you're driving, whether you're working on the car, no matter what it is, you have to be able to handle that so that you can make it better, and not make that mistake again the next time. And, so I think there was a lot of that over the years. And, you kind of hold everybody accountable and ask a lot out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same hand, that's at the end of the day, that's where the performance comes from.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, like you mentioned, you've had a numerous number of people drive for you at KKR. But I want to talk about the last couple of years, having Brad in the 49 car. How did that deal come about? How did you find Brad? And when you were watching Brad, what was some things that Brad was doing that caught your eye for you to say, hey, I want this guy to drive my car?
Yeah, so that was when my cousin Willie, Factory Kane, he was still a big part of KKR. And we were looking for a driver, and I saw him because I was racing Cup, but I was watching all the USAC stuff, all the sprint car races, and I would still go and race once in a while. So I remember, I'm pretty sure I was at Bristol and raced Bristol, got on the plane, was flying out to Washington to race the sprint car race the next day. And, at home, and on the flight out, I saw that Brad, I think he won, maybe it was Belleville, or he'd won something that night, or maybe it was more like Sun Prairie or something, but he was driving, I think he was in Keith Kuntz midget maybe, and he'd won there. And then I get to Elma and I'm at the driver's meeting and I see Brad Sweet. I don't know him, but I see him, come walking into the driver's meeting. And then he raced there, and then I was like, man, this guy's everywhere. And then I watched a couple nights later, he's racing somewhere else, and every time he's in someone else's car. And he's running really well. And whether it's a Keith Kuntz car, whether it's a different midget, whether it's a sprint car, non-wing, winged. Yeah. And so at that point in time, I was like, man, I like this guy. And so I called him. I forget how that part went, but somehow me and Willie got his number. But it was one number off. I'd screwed it up writing it down or something, you know, and I'd screwed it up. So I leave him this voicemail like, hey man, it's Kasey Kahne. Like, would love to talk to you about racing one of my sprint cars and midgets, you know, at the time I think it was midgets and stuff too. So I know it was, but I'm leaving a voicemail to someone who knows nothing about me or sprint car racing or anything else, I'm guessing. So I got no return call. So like a week later, I'm like, hey, Willie, this guy won't even call me back. You know, like, let's move on. Like, we're done with this guy. And he's like, let me look into it. So he looks into it. He never had a voicemail. Later on, we looked back and I had one number off. So I think it was my mistake.
Oh, it happens to the best of us, right?
Yeah.
I gotta ask though, when you've been in operation for as long as you have with KKR and you've accomplished what you already have, is there one thing that you're maybe most proud of? Is there one crowning moment where you're like, I can't believe we were able to pull this off? I mean, that might be tough to answer when you come right out in 2006 and Saldana is able to get a win at the King's Royal, if I'm not mistaken, in your first year, right?
Yeah, so Joey won the King's Royal that year. They won, I don't remember, maybe 8 races that year, and we're very strong, you know, for a first-year team. And so that was, you know, definitely a highlight to get that type of those wins early on, and the following year even better. But I would say, like, overall the time, like, to me, the hardest race to win for us over the years, we won a few King's Royals, but the hardest race to win was the Knoxville Nationals.
Yeah.
And so I would have a lot of highlights, but Brad Sweet winning the Knoxville Nationals was like, we worked at it. KKR worked at it for so long, a few different drivers, and we'd go quick time there. I don't know how many times, start in the front and just, you know, run second, you know, and run third, run second. And Joey came really close a few times, but wasn't able to pull it off. And then for Brad to win that was crazy. How cool, how good that felt for everybody that's put so much into it over the years. So that was by far the biggest race that we've won, and we still only have one because it is that tough to win. But so that one was really good. And then Darren Pittman with the championship in 2013, just to come over to KKR the first year, and him and my brother just in that team, Michael and Colton, like just how strong they were right off the bat. And they were, I mean, they dominated the first part of that season and had a big points lead. And, you know, Donnie lit up later in the year and came back at him, and it got very close at the end. But Darren, you know, won it, and they put it together, and, you know, it's every race. So, that was awesome, you know, to get that first championship. And now Brad's won 6 national championships in a row. So it's pretty cool what the guys have accomplished over the years. But those would be some very big highlights.
Yeah. I want to talk about, you know, you being obviously the owner and runner of KKR. What's some things that you as an owner have to deal with running a national sprint car operation that the average fan sitting in the stands wouldn't even think about?
A little bit of everything. You know, like I think of right when you're saying that, we just had the gold 100 years of Napa car at Texas Motor Speedway, and like just the whole, like, you know, Ty Wolfgang, Brad's crew chief, you know, he led that whole charge. But like, I'm part of knowing, you know, we want to do little videos as they're painting the gold so we can put that out. We want to do, you know, you have to have this car here, this body here at the painter in order to get it painted. And then we have to have it back, you know, Tuesday night, because that's the night that the vinyl guy can make it over and do that all perfect. And so I would say, like, just stuff like that, you know, you're at the racetrack and it just appears, it looks beautiful, everything's done. You know, as a driver and an owner, like, I'm part of all of that stuff these days. And just, you know, the guys make it happen, and I'm right there with them, whether it's, you know, helping or just, you know, talking about, you know, kind of like how we're going to make it happen. We need another trailer to get that car there. So then once that race is over, we're basically on a month away from Charlotte, so we don't want any of the gold stuff anymore. So we have enough wings in the trailer and enough of all the white, you know, all the white Napa stuff. So yeah, just being part of everything. And I enjoy it. I like
Yeah.
all that. But I would say those types of things that look really good at the track, but there was a process and a lot of work that went into it from everybody at KKR.
I want to know a little bit about your race day routines, and maybe like let's start with just the race week, because now that you're back to doing the sprint car stuff more regularly compared to at other points in your career, how does your race week look like, and how does it compare to when you were a cup driver?
I would say probably closer to when I was a cup driver than most would think, just because I am very hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of, KKR. And so from the sponsorship side to the car build to parts, pieces, all of our partners, plus all of our employees and the driver's side, working with Brad or, everybody has to get from A to B. Yeah. I mean, I just, I like being at the shop, helping the guys, whether it's a wash day or, I'm working on shocks and, going through that type of stuff. And, Tate's going through the engine, and Andrew's got stuff going on with the car and the tires. And, so I just feel like, I'm just I'm, and in Cup, say that, the last couple of years there at Hendrick Motorsports, I was there a couple days a week, working with the team, the engineers, like trying to prepare for the next race. And then, so you're at the shop there, then I'm at KKR, a little bit. And then we leave Thursday to fly to the race. We're qualify, another practice Saturday, race Sunday. So I just feel like I'm always kind of involved in racing, and I have been for many years. It's a little different now because it's all kind of under our roof, and I really enjoy that side of it. I'm glad we're in a position to still have KKR and me be part of the team, part of the driving side at this point. But I think just really being, racing pretty much every day. And right now we're traveling, so then I have to get, I have the motorhome, and me and Amy, we're always, making sure the motorhome's ready, and so that Anna and Tanner they're having fun driving down the road, and I'm driving it 99% of the time. But Amy jumps in when I ask her to, but it's not too often. I kind of like doing the driving. Takes care of it back here, which is probably tougher than what I'm doing up front, really.
So I want to talk about, a lot of drivers have them, and I want to know if you have them or not. Do you have any race day superstitions?
So I used to, and since I got racing sprint cars again, I haven't. I just kind of stopped it all. But I used to. It wasn't really that. All that I would ever do, and I don't know why I started doing this, but I put everything on my right side first. So like, if it was a sock, it was the right sock. If it was a glove, it was the right glove. It was just, I did everything with the right side first. And like today, when I'm doing it now, like if I put my left glove on first, it crosses my mind like, whoa, what are you doing? But I don't care. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like, I don't do that anymore. So that was all I ever did. And for some reason it was constant. It was for every single time I raced for however many years. And the last couple of years, I just, whatever happens.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Beef, I think it's time we hit the portion of the show. This is everybody's favorite portion of the show. It is the timed rapid fire question segment. 4 questions, quickest time. Let's see what we can do. Beef, let's set this thing up.
So I'm going to have 4 questions, Kasey. And your time to beat right now, the quick time is still Ava Payton at an 18-second flat for 4 questions, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to count you in 3, 2, 1, and then I'll start asking the questions. Once you answer, I'll move on to the next one.
All right, I'm ready.
Got that clock set up?
Yes.
Oh.
Can you see that picture?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it showed up, but
yeah, it's showing up.
So that's my first year in a sprint car, 360 sprint car.
No way.
And so then that's Tanner and Amy and Anna. But yeah, we have that. I forget what those things are called.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the rotating
digital picture frame.
Yeah,
it's so cool. Yeah, we can always upload pictures, and it's so cool. But I saw that somebody gave me that picture at a track to sign.
Oh, really?
Over the last couple of years, so I'm like, man, we got to take a picture of that. That's pretty cool. That That was my first year in sprint cars. Kind of cool. Popped up right there.
Yeah, that was cool. Okay, you ready now?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Favorite beer or drink?
Busch Light.
Favorite truck stop, snack, and drink combo?
Loves truck stop, the pepperoni and cheese.
Top 3 pizza toppings?
Pepperoni, jalapeno, sausage.
Favorite wing flavor?
Hot, buffalo.
I like it. It felt pretty quick.
Yeah.
Spicy buffalo.
Spicy buffalo. I love hot wings, so I'm always.
You're talking to two guys in the right area of the world for spicy buffalo wings.
Yeah.
You came in at 23.6.
Really? That seemed way faster than that.
It always does. I thought you were cooking there. You got to the third question. I looked down. It was at 16 seconds, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is gonna be good."
You know what?
Yeah. But
I'm sure you've raced at a racetrack, Kasey, where you're thinking the timing line is a little questionable, or maybe there's something wrong up in the tower with timing and scoring. I'm starting to think maybe Beef doesn't have the timing down over here.
Everybody direct their comments on the timing to me. It's probably my fault, but so I want to talk, Kasey, about your 2025 so far. So I got your stats here so far. You've got 13 features, no wins yet, 2 top 5s, and 6 top 10s. So just break us down. How has the beginning of your season gone so far? And are you happy with it, or do you think maybe there was some room for improvement there?
Yeah, so didn't feel very good at all the first 6 races. And the 7th race, didn't feel that good either. It was just like really tight, kind of laid in my right rear. But basically since that race, so race 8 and on, we've just as a team, I feel like we've really been able to look at what we're doing, take really good notes, and pretty much every night we've been getting better. And throughout the whole year we've been getting better. And I feel great in the race car from kind of all standpoints. So Texas was the first time that I felt like we kind of went backwards since about the 8th race of the year. We've kept getting better and better, and then Texas, I think we went backwards a little bit, just weren't that sharp and just didn't really get things going there. But yeah, I mean, to this point, way better than I've been the last couple of years in a sprint car. I feel like I'm driving better. The car is ultimately way better. I mean, that's such a huge part of what we're doing. And the team morale and the guys, like they have my back, I have their back. I feel like we're doing this together, and it's been a lot of fun. I feel like we're in a really good place as a team, and yeah, it's been really cool. We're just getting ready to really get it going too, because everything to this point's kind of been on and off. We've had some rainouts. We've had a few weeks where we are off from other races, and I think now's the time to really start figuring it out, and hopefully we have a good plan and can keep improving. But yeah, to this point, it's been my best year in a sprint car in a long time.
Feeling good. The performance is, like you say, it's really starting to come on now that you've got a few more races under your belt. One thing I wonder about the KKR operation is how much note sharing goes on between yourself and Brad and everybody else that is involved. Is it really an open book between all the teams, or is it maybe that you guys have really different driving styles and that can maybe get in the way?
So this year was the first year that both cars were built the same, which is kind of weird to say as a car owner, but yeah, it's the first year since I've been involved. And either prior to that, crew chiefs like my brother and Darren did it one way, and whoever was in the other car did it another way. So like that's just how KKR's kind of been. Nobody's ever had to do anything the same. And this year we, basically the 9 copied the 49. And so me and Brad have the same cars. Our engines, some of the engines are similar and some are a touch different, but we're working on that as well. So as far as the builds go, this is the first time it's been very similar, and that's, I think, helped me a ton to have that style of car. So I like that a lot. As far as what the teams, myself, like the crew chiefs, this year, like both teams are very more so than the past by far. Just work together, understand what the other team's doing. Me and Brad talk a lot, but we've always talked a lot. And the thing that's hard is what you said about driving styles. Brad he's just drives way different than I drive, and I drive way different than him. So every once in a while we can run a very similar setup. Where was it? Skagit a couple years ago. I started going really good, and Brad basically put my setup in the next night and won the race. And so then this year, Brad was running awesome at Skagit, and I wasn't. Or last year, I mean, he was running awesome, I wasn't. So I put his setup in identical, and I could barely go around the racetrack. So it's like it's a weird thing how drivers work. And I think there's a lot that goes from your hands to your feet and how fast they move, how fast your throttle up and down, your brake, and your hands. And then obviously your mind is part of that. But I think we get pretty far off in some of those situations. And then every once in a while, like, we can drive the same car and both be really good with it. So, it's an interesting thing, but I like talking to Brad a lot, but it doesn't work very often, to do similar to him. And we both understand that these days, but, he the way he drives and sticks his right rear and things with his style is something that it wouldn't work for too many people, really.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, sprint car racing, obviously very dangerous sport. We've seen lots of people get injured and even killed in sprint car racing, but I know you are a user of the Chasm system on your race cars, and it's a new thing that's come out recently. I know we just put it personally on my driver's sprint car. We just installed it all. But just talk about maybe some of the advances like the Chasm system in sprint car racing that have come out that have made it so much safer for you guys behind the wheel.
Yeah, so when Scott Kaufman first came by my shop and he was showing it to me, I looked at it and was like, oh, that's really interesting, and then we kind of moved on, and I went out that year and landed really hard and was surprised that I didn't break my back. Like, it was one of those hits where, land flat. It was at Eldora. I flipped and then landed pretty flat, and I was very surprised. My back was hurt for, I don't know, a few weeks, and back, shoulders, neck, everything, and I actually think I missed a couple weeks even. I tried to race Peevely, and it was just too much pain, so I didn't do it. But and I was like, man, I need to look at that. That was the first time I had landed that way, and it's really like your body just can't handle that hit in a sprint car, and we've seen it plenty of times over the years. So your body can't handle that when the car just lands down and on the frame rails. So I put it in, and I was racing at Jackson or somewhere. Yeah, I was racing, and I used it and landed again. Or no, it might have actually been Peevely right before I stopped that weekend because whatever. But I was like, I could not believe the pressure that it took off my back when I actually used it because I was wrecking, and it landed the wrong way. But for that system, it landed the right way. And that system, the way it, was more like a pillow and took out that compression. It took it out of my body and just left it in the race car. And from that point on, I just told myself I won't race a sprint car again without the Chasm. And I didn't make it like a mandatory thing at KKR, but I thought about it, and I was like, I'm just going to run it some more and move on and see kind of where this goes. It's hard to ever tell somebody to do something, unless they're behind it as well. So the last 2 years, Brad, he wanted it in his car. He put it in, and he hasn't said a word. He just races. So we both run it now, and now if you were to race at KKR, you would have it. But it's just kind of the way it is. But I really like it. I like the idea behind it, and it's it helps a ton. And I've tested it myself, and that's why I know that.
So you've been an owner for so long now. A couple years back, your driver comes to you and says, "Hey, me and Kyle Larson are thinking about starting our own National 410 series. What's going through your mind when Brad approaches you? Because I'm sure you were one of the first people to maybe start hearing the whispers of it, or what they were planning, what they were thinking. Obviously, I'm sure you had to be consulted, considering that meant shifting away from World of Outlaws, being a full-time World of Outlaws runner. What was that process like for you? And did you want to be maybe a part owner in the series when it started to initially come up?
Yeah. So when they, Brad brought that to me, and I instantly was, pretty excited about it, because I felt like Brad's experiences and Kyle's experiences from, all types of racing, all forms of racing, winning, losing, they've been part of it all across the board. And, we've all been doing something for a long time, and we enjoy it for sure, but there was never an upside. There's an upside if you win, but then, that never did anything for you moving forward. And I just felt like, from a financial side, from an ownership side, like the things that Brad was talking about and how he was looking at it because of his experiences, because, me and Brad had always been close. So he always like knew where I was from a financial side, what we had going on the race teams, and did and didn't. And, so he looked at it with a very clear, strong mind, and I got behind it 100% because I felt like it can help sprint car racing and help the owners and help the drivers and put on a better show than than where it was at the time. And High Limits has proved that, in a very short period of time. Like, I was watching the Outlaw show last night, because I still pay super close attention to all sprint car racing, and we'll race some of those races this year. But, before High Limits started, that show last night wouldn't have been over at the time it was over.
No,
right? I mean, those Outlaws used to race all night long. All certain stuff did, and it's all changed, and a lot of the sport has changed because of what High Limit's doing, and I think it's awesome. And that's why I was behind it from the start, and still am. I mean, we made a big move to take 2 cars over there and support that series, and I trusted what Brad and Kyle were doing, and they've done every single thing that they spoke about, and we're still moving in the right direction. And with Flow behind it, and now the franchises, moving forward for the teams who have supported the High Limits. I mean, to me, it's really good for a national series, and it's exciting to be part of that and see that, man, this thing can keep growing.
Yeah, for sure. So, talking about that, is that in your eyes maybe what is separating High Limit, just running that little bit above the World Outlaws, as in like they're making sure that the teams on the lower levels that are not always winning are the ones that are getting the benefit as well. Like, it's not always about finishing first. If you're finishing 10th on back, you're still making more than if you were on the other tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm working hard because I want 2 franchises moving forward. I'm not going to be driving this thing forever, that's for sure. So, like, I want to figure out how I can get enough points this year. I was so bad last year that I need to finish pretty high in the points this year to get one of those franchises. But I'm not going to have the best one. We are with Brad, but I'm going to have the worst one probably. If I can sneak one out, like, it's going to be the worst one. And that 10th one is still better than anything else in sprint car racing by far for that position. So, we're working hard for that. We're trying hard as a team.
That's a really cool goal that you guys have to go and chase in terms of the High Limits and securing some stability for the next few seasons afterwards, right? You guys have a longer term vision, and I like the way that things are setting up. We're a pretty national podcast in terms of what we cover, but we're both guys who are based in Ontario, Canada. And I know you have some experience in Victory Lane at a track not too far from us. What can you tell me, or what do you remember about getting to Victory Lane at Ohsweken Speedway in a 360 car back in the day?
So I remember, I enjoyed going up there. That track was really fun to race, and it was a really cool track. So I remember really well the 360. We ran great. I was like laid left and felt good, like everything you want. Had right rear grip, everything felt good. I was happy. And we come back the next night for the Outlaw show, And I'm like, man, we're going to be really good. We're going to start the car the exact same as we did last night, and we're going to be really good. And I actually followed Jason Johnson down the backstretch, and we were going into turn 3, and I about spun out getting into turn 3, and he was just gone, like around the, around the corner. I'm like, oh boy, we're going to have to change things up. It's not the same, but yeah, it was cool. That was a great track. We won there, and then raced 410s the next night. I don't know what our result was, but it was nowhere near what it was the night before in the 360.
Yeah. Now, we know you're coming up to Ransomville next Friday. A couple days before, there's the 2 Outlaw shows at Oswego. Is there any chance we see the KKR guys come across the border for Oswego?
Man, I think it would be pretty cool as far as to race there again. Absolutely. But, yeah, I mean, we're nonstop. We go Kokomo, Fremont, the New York, Grandview, Port Royal. So we won't make it over there, but maybe in the future it'd be pretty cool to race up there again someday.
Absolutely. We might have to work on getting a high limit date up north of the border, because we definitely would love to have you guys come across for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One more that I guess I wanted to talk about is that, yes, you've got Kasey Kahne Racing, but you've got your hand in plenty of other businesses, which you kind of touched on, with things with Mr. Hendrick and what Rick does. Talk to us a little bit about the screen printing side of things, and what was the desire? Did you see kind of a void in screen printing for race teams and for what you were able to fill with KKR screen print?
Yeah, so it all started when I was in NASCAR in the Cup Series. We just had a lot going on at KKR. We built a big building. Well, we first built a building across the road when we moved from that building I told you about at Jerry Nadeau's.
Yeah.
So we built one across the road, and I think it was maybe 12,000 square feet. And we moved into there, and we weren't there long. I'm like, oh, we need something bigger than this. So we built on the other side of the street, 26,000 square foot building. And so we weren't at the first KKR building very long before we moved to the second one, but we needed it for sprint cars. We needed it for the NASCAR stuff. We just had a lot going on, and we had a lot of employees. The shop always had people in it. We had a store there for fans to come by, and it was really cool. And then I got out of Cup, and you'd go by the shop, and in the summertime when James McFadden's in the 9 and Brad's in the 49, I mean, it's like I'd go to the shop and it's me, it's Roseanne, and that's probably it, or maybe one more. It was just empty and there was nothing going on. So I'm like, man, we have to come up with something. And it took about a year and a half we were thinking do a brewery. We were thinking we had all these ideas, and Brad was actually helping me. He'd come up with way more ideas than I did, but finally we chose we were like, screen print. You need the setup time. It's a speed, it's quality, it's speed. Mm-hmm. The setup goes in kind of in a way you're setting up a race car. I mean, you have to set up those jobs and have the lines and all the colors perfect for each screen. So we came up with screen printing. We're in racing, so we had a way to kind of get some clientele right off the start, which is what we did, and that's where we started. And it's been really cool. It's been much harder than expected. I feel like we've been really fortunate to do a lot of racing early on because of being tied into racing, but we need a lot of outside business to actually make the company successful, because they only sell sprint car shirts for 6 or so months of the year. Yeah. And someone who works at screen print wants to work there all year, not for just half a year. So, so it's been tough to put the business side all together. And we're printing our quality. Everything's the best it's been by far right now. Yeah. But we need way more business to be a successful company. And so we're still working on it, but we're 4 years in, and I'm really glad we have it. We just have to keep working at the whole processes and things. But we've done some really cool shirts. That's one thing that I go to the Kings Royal. I go to, you can go anywhere. You can go to a NASCAR race or Knoxville Nationals, and you just see the shirts that have came out of the back of the shop. And it's really cool to see some of that. Yeah. People who you wouldn't even expect to get a shirt through Kane Screen Print. So, I really like it. It's pretty neat business, and we keep working hard to make it better.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, I guess you could call it, I don't know if you call it a meme, but something that's very similar to what I post daily on Dirt Beers is Kasey Kahne Fridays.
Yeah.
So when did you first see Kasey Kahne Fridays, and what were your thoughts about it?
So I don't know if I saw it right at the start. I kind of feel like I might have missed it there for a little bit, but
Yeah,
I just, as soon as I saw it, I because of the music, I always think the music and like how it's edited to where, I'm spinning like in a 360 as far as
yeah,
one race and smoke, and then they show another part or another. It just, to me, it flows, and just is, the timing's really good. And yeah, and then I thought it was hilarious from the start.
yeah.
I loved it. And I watch it every Friday. If it pops up on my mentions or something, I'm like, oh, there it is, and I'll hit it and listen, and I'm like, oh, that's sweet, and then move on. But yeah, really cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
All right, Beef, we want to hit the fan questions here.
Yeah,
We've got a couple for you.
Yeah, so we posted up on the story earlier today asking for follower questions for you, Kasey, and we whittled her down to, we got 4 good ones. Hopefully,
Okay.
we'll see. But our first one came in from Callie. Said, "What is your favorite dirt track to run?"
Oh, it's tough. There's some good dirt tracks. To me, it's Knoxville.
Yeah,
And the reason it's Knoxville is because when that track's right, which it's right quite often, that doesn't happen to a lot of dirt tracks, but Knoxville's right quite often. And the bottom is so technical. The top is really technical. You can run across the middle, you can slide across, drive across, come back down, like kind of the diamond. But
yeah,
to hit all those things, when you can make a mistake at a track and basically go from, I don't know the exact, basically lose a second by just making a little mistake, or the next lap that guy in front of you makes a mistake and you just like go right on by him, because you nailed it and he missed it.
yeah.
Like, to me, that's great racetracks, and that's Knoxville. So it would always be on top of my list. Skagit Speedway, where I started, is, I just always enjoyed that place because I grew up watching races there, and then when I started racing there and won some big races there, it was, just a really, really great track. And Kevin Redine's doing a great job, building that thing up again. So, yeah, those are some really good tracks.
You mentioned racing at Skagit. This next question comes in. I have a coworker of mine in rock radio that grew up in BC and was a regular of going to Skagit, crossing the border, and quite familiar with watching you guys. So his dad wanted to ask what your memories of going back-to-back in the Dirt Cup 2002 through 2003, what your memories of those 2 big wins were.
Really good memories. I told my dad when I was young, because usually, like I said earlier, like the guys from California, or even some guys, would come out from the Midwest or just in different areas to race the Dirt Cup in June. And usually a local wouldn't win the race. Locals won a little bit, but not very often back then, maybe once or twice that I remember. But anyways, I always told my dad, like, I'm going to win Dirt Cup someday, Dad. Like, I will. And so to win that first one in the 51 car, Phil Durst was part of it, who was always part of, my racing for years and still is today. Yeah, that was a super special night to get that win. The next year with Roth I was racing more in the Busch Series at the time, and I would go and race that 83 Roth car once in a while, and we were very competitive, very fast. Willie, my cousin Willie, who's Factory Kane, like he was on both those cars. He was crew chief on both those cars. And so that race, they brought that car up in a small trailer. It was kind of long, but it was small. And we had to take the wings off and everything to push everything in. And so we win Dirt Cup. And I felt like it was half my school from Enumclaw High School was there, because I hadn't been out of high school for too long at that time.
Yeah.
But I remember winning that, and it was just like a really good time after the race. Everybody's having fun. But at one point I stepped back from that trailer, because you bring the cars out of the pits back then and push them up behind the trailer, and then the fans are there, and it's just a big night. Yeah. And I remember stepping back, and if that trailer was 30 feet long, It was absolutely stuffed full of people. There were people all around the trailer on the outside, like behind, and it was just packed. And we were all having the best time. And that was the second Dirt Cup win. And
Yeah,
so those two were super cool.
that's awesome. So this one's from actually one of the sponsors of the show, Tom Dunkel of Inland Rigging. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tom. He's out of Southern California, but he owns a multi-car non-wing sprint car team that races USAC out there.
Okay.
But his I guess it's more of a pitch than a question, I guess. But he says, would you consider running some non-wing races if a seat was open in a really good ride?
So I wouldn't, and
No.
the reason why is I watch non-wing racing. I pay attention to everything, but this whole driving a sprint car again and getting back into a sprint car full time, like it has not been easy. Like it's been difficult. Mm-hmm. So I committed to myself, like it's only sprint cars. It's only my sprint car, which I understand and feel comfortable in and know. And so I kind of committed that a few years ago, and then so I just feel more comfortable doing that these days and just focusing on that, because it hasn't been easy for sure to transition back to that from all the time I put in NASCAR. And then this year I threw an Xfinity race in just because I thought that was okay, because I did have so many years in those cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as that, I would say just be pretty much my sprint car from here out, and then that'll be it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I got one more here from
thanks for the offer, though, for sure.
Yeah, right? Hey, it's a good offer, right?
Hey, we tried, Tom. We tried.
We tried. I got one more here from my buddy Carl Brown and his dad. And the question is, have you ever stopped at, what is this, the Alger Tavern near Skagit for some fried chicken?
So it'd be the Alger Tavern.
Okay.
And I haven't. Sounds like I need to, though.
Yeah, he was saying that apparently the fried chicken there is amazing. It's like 5 minutes from Skagit. So
really,
yeah,
I'll remember that Alger Tavern. So we go up there the end of August, I think Labor Day weekend, and that's high limit goes through there. We have 3 nights and 100 and I don't know how much it is to win this year. It's probably 126,000 because it's Kevin Rudine.
Yeah.
Loves the 26, I think, but. So I don't know if it's that much, but somewhere in there. So it's a great race weekend up at Skagit, and I'm going to go have some of that chicken. Absolutely.
There you go.
Have a beer and some fried chicken one night.
That's awesome.
That's how you do Skagit, right? At least that's what I've heard. I haven't been out that way myself, but the West Coast is calling the more and more we do this show. So
yeah.
That's good. Yeah, you guys should come up there.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get everywhere. We're gonna see where we can get with this, and hopefully we get out to the West Coast and see some racing. I want to see racing across the entire country, like Canada and the U.S. It'd be a dream to try and hit almost every track if we could. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But so Kasey, we always like to end with this last question and talk a little bit about not racing. So when you're not racing, do you have any hobbies or any sports that you like to play? Maybe obviously hanging out with the kids and your wife, doing stuff with them. But what's something that Kasey Kahne does that doesn't involve driving a car?
So I would say that the few things these days would be cooking, barbecuing. I love barbecuing, and Amy's great, whether we're out, barbecuing together or she's inside, cooking other things, and then we, put it all together.
Yeah.
Like we have so much fun cooking and like having whether it's a glass of wine or a beer, and like enjoying the night with some really good food. So I would say that's there. Anna's 2, and she's like wild and fun and sweet. And so basically any time with her is a good time, really good time.
Yeah.
Tanner's playing sports. He's 9. So we have baseball going right now. He loved football. So we have all that. And then they're both, enjoy being in the motorhome and traveling to the races. So that'll be throughout the summer, be with them. We hit water parks, campgrounds, like just whatever we can to have some fun away from the track as well. And my winter time is skiing. If I can be in the Colorado mountains, snow skiing, I am as happy as I can be, man. That is, that's the ultimate, to be snow skiing in the mountains.
Awesome. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's always a race car driver thing too. I find there's tons of guys who have all raced at various levels, various different types of cars. They all seem to love skiing or snowboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, Kasey, it's been an awesome interview. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us, and we wish you nothing but luck with the 2025 season with the high limits, and hopefully we get out to track and get to meet you in person one day here.
Yeah, sounds good. Make sure you guys get to a high limit show. Come down, track me down, and we'll hang out. So
Awesome.
appreciate you guys having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Kasey.